Do you know what golf has to do with national debt and cognitive abilities? Me neither, but the two leading candidates for the President of the United States seem to think otherwise. So, I've watched the entire debate between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. You probably have seen clips of it circulating around the internet, and oh boy, the one time that the people wish that was AI generated. For context, the US is currently extremely divided with a lot of urgent issues and a need for a strong leadership. Of course, the strongest and best people to lead one of the strongest countries in the world are the 80-year-old annoying orange, who is also an insurance scammer, and a dangling marionette with his strings loosely attached. I am not a US citizen, nor do I live in the US, but I can't help but feel terrible for the American people. While I was watching the debate, I kept chuckling until I remembered that both of these men could potentially enter the world into a global nuclear conflict, and this has filled me with such an indescribable deep feeling of dread. For anyone who hasn't seen the debate, it basically went like this. This man is full of malarkey. He is a crook and a liar. The only crook is your mother for giving birth to such a pathetic excuse of a president who can't even play golf. Can't play golf? This man can't even carry his own bag. I got a six handicap in golf. I'm perfectly mentally fit to be the president, the United States of the president. Skibbity, me the president of the Confederacy. Wrong. Wrong decade, Sleepy Joe. In fact, wrong century. This guy's the worst person ever. Why, I am the best thinker, the absolute best. If you're so good, then why'd you sleep with an adult actress? I had no relations with that woman. You're a crook. I'm not a crook. You're a liar. If I'm a liar, then why aren't my pants on fire, Sleepy Joe? Didn't think of that one, huh? You're done. It's Jober. I won. You're fired. America is a nation that can be described with one word. But for real, it was just a bunch of ad hominem attacks without discussing any serious points of interest like the national debt, price of living, and healthcare. Both of them actively avoided the questions they were asked very blatantly. Like at one point Trump was asked what he thinks about the fentanyl crisis, and he just started calling Biden the worst president ever, like he did not address the actual question whatsoever. Or he somehow managed to involve quote-unquote illegal immigrants as the source of all of America's problems. Ah yes, the influx of immigrants has somehow added $8 trillion to the national debt because they took our jobs even though there's a labor shortage? That reminds me of that one German-Austrian painter who also blamed a group of people in all of his country's problems. Forgot the name, but the coincidences are getting a bit uncanny. Like, I'm being serious right now. Most of what they were saying was completely irrelevant to the topics they were supposed to discuss, to the point where they were debating their golfing ability when asked about their mental and physical fitness. Trump, in my opinion, is like the Bill Clinton scandal combined with Richard Nixon's crook allegations. He somehow manages to be a cheater in more ways than one. Who would have thought? And Joe Biden. Oh, old sleepy Joe. Joe Biden, wake up. He's just not there anymore. If I could sum up his presidency in one word, it would be... I've seen someone say 37 felonies versus 37 neurons, and that pretty much sums up the debate in a nutshell. I could not have imagined it being any sillier. How does hitting golf balls make you fit to run the country? Although Trump did bring up one valid point somehow, even though the debate devolved into an AI-generated South Park episode. The point being that Trump did have to take multiple cognitive tests to prove his mental stability to be the president, while Biden had to take none. Now, I'm not a political scientist, I'm an entertainer, but they're entertainers as well, and they know it. This debate, if you can even call it that, was them insulting each other like kindergarteners while telling everyone how terrible the other is. It was focused on which one of them was the worst, instead of focusing on who would be better for the entire country. Imagine you actually study political science and this debate is what you have to deal with. I'd definitely reconsider my life choices. There's no science behind this. I think it's obvious that the American government is just so riddled with corruption that they're not even trying to hide it anymore. That's how Biden didn't need to take the test, or how he was barely conscious and cohesive throughout the entire debate. He's clearly someone's tool for exerting power. Or at least, I hope so. If this man is unironically running the country with no people pulling his strings to make him dance, I'm fearing for the Earth's well-being. The US does have a crap ton of nukes after all, and these are the men that will be able to control them. Unless this whole thing is a farce, which I think it is. I made a video previously where I covered why two-party systems don't work and the numerous flaws of US politics, so please watch that video after this one. But to answer the question, who will Gen Z vote for in 2024? Here's my genuine answer. So the men in Generation Z have a strong tendency towards the conservatives. You know, all of the people that have Patrick Bateman in their profile picture or a dictator with glowing eyes, while the women have a tendency to vote for the Democrats. Of course there's also trad wives and mullet owners, but generally even Gen Z split between the two candidates. Despite this, the youth still has a tendency towards liberalism and the Democratic Party because they care slightly more about the environment, they advocate for social justice, and they want to tax the rich, allegedly, but they end up doing none of that. There is a distinct movement of young conservatives in the US, but they are in the minority currently. I think the majority will vote for Biden, however, the ones that vote for Trump will be very vocal and active about it. But I'm sorry to tell you this, but your vote doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you choose between Tweedledee and Tweedledum over here. Both of them have failed to address the country's biggest issues in their terms as presidents. Both of them have added trillions to the national debt. They both support the military-industrial complex, and they're both old as hell. Also, I'm not a centrist. I know that calling both parties terrible is a very overdone take, but I just want to be able to see tomorrow without mortar fire and ballistic missiles going off. So I'll keep hating every party who supports forever wars. So, the Democrats and Republicans. Speaking of the Republicans, Trump supporters will cause a riot if Trump doesn't get elected, and if he does get elected, they'll enact Project 2025. Biden will just continue to run the country into the ground if he governs it the same way he's doing currently. I've never witnessed a country get checkmated by themselves. You'd think that one of the many enemies of the US would have defeated it, but you're always your own worst enemy. I mean, I did see historical accounts of countries screwing themselves over to that degree, but this is the first time I'm seeing it live. My condolences. You might have noticed that I said something about Project 2025, and you might be thinking, what do you mean by that? Well, it essentially wants to ban trans and gay people from existence. That's not much of an exaggeration. They want to ban gay marriage, ban abortion under all circumstances, they want to possibly ban divorce, and here's the most insidious thing. Project 2025 only relies on a conservative president being elected, in this case Trump from the Republican Party, and then replace current government officials with conservatives and plain yes men that will do anything the president says. So kind of like a dictatorship instead of a democracy. Oh, and Trump also might have plans of leaving NATO, so good luck Europe, you're on your own. Conservatives in the US say that the plan is just BS, but I don't think it is, man. The supporters behind it seem very serious. So basically they want to turn the US into a Christian nationalist state with Trump as their supreme leader and governing body. So that's their idea of making America great again. This is not a surprising development to me because two-party systems always eventually result in some form of oligarchy or a dictatorship. The Democrat and Republican parties have become too powerful where no one can stop them now. I can't even begin to understand how Americans must be feeling right now, especially the younger generations, as they're slowly being introduced into the voting pool. People born in 2006 will be able to vote this year. We're getting way too old way too quickly. I genuinely first wrote 2004 into the script instead of 2006 because I'm in a genuine state of arrested development and I'm just looking at silly cats to distract me from the fact how the next 2 years of my life will probably look like. This wasn't a debate, this was a funeral for what used to be America. Donald Trump just kept lying about most of his points when he wasn't roasting Joe Biden into oblivion, but Biden was so out of it, he looked like he was barely even there. Future felon versus known war criminal. One bombed the Middle East, the other one bombed the Balkans and the Middle East. And breaking news, I guess Trump is also completely immune for his crimes for the time being, so if you had any hopes of him dropping out, it's Jover. Same with Biden. The Democrats chose to stick with Biden, for whatever reason. Y'all have probably seen the meme already of the Obama-Romney debate versus the most recent one. It's a completely different ballpark, where policies were actually discussed and the opponents were cordial and polite with each other, and there are no accusations of sleeping with adult film actresses. I guess it's not really an accusation if it's true, but still, it's clear that ever since the 2016 Hillary versus Trump election, the quality of the presidential candidates has deteriorated so substantially that people would rather take a bullet to their cerebrum instead of voting for Trump or Biden. Who Gen Z will vote for in 2024 does not matter because either way, it will be bad. If Trump wins, the conservatives will install Project 2025 into the government and make America something more akin to 1984 by George Orwell. If Biden wins, it will either be more of the same for the next 4 years, so more inflation, national debt, and possibly a third world war. If the Biden campaign continues to be as terrible for America as it was for the last 4 years, then the US simply can't afford more of the same. They need different policies. They need a good leader who will unite the country instead of dividing it. They need someone who makes living affordable again. Or even if the Democrats change their president-elect or keep Biden around as the swinging marionette that he is, the Trump supporters will revolt and claim that the election was rigged once again, possibly causing another January 6th insurrection, but on a much larger scale. Trump basically said that if he doesn't win, he'll sick his MAGA dogs onto the parliament and maybe even attempt to overthrow them because he is the true president of the United States. I feel like I'm talking about the plot of some dark fantasy novel, but no, this is real life. This is the situation we find ourselves in. How can it be that Trump has been the main candidate for 3 elections now, even winning once? Do the Republicans really have no one who is better or more qualified than him? If so, how? When did the US government become so fundamentally incompetent? Maybe it's because they're so damn old. I think 80 years old is way too old to be president, and we should stop living in a gerontocracy. If there's a minimum age limit to become the president, then why is there no maximum? How are they supposed to make decisions about the future if they might not even wake up tomorrow? Or maybe it's the fluoride in their drinking water, or the microplastics everywhere, or their food that allows lead inside of it. It feels like the entire US has been affected by a bad water supply, and now even the senators and presidents have experienced an insane level of mental degradation. Have y'all seen the new law they passed making it basically illegal to be homeless? Or just camp outside for that matter? Happy 4th of July, guys! You now can't be outside for long periods of time. This has become literally dystopian by definition. This is worse than a South Park episode actually, because in South Park at least the 8-year-olds, like Kyle in particular, remain sane and have some speeches about what they learned about their wacky situation. In the US, there is no Kyle Broflovsky or a straight man. At least in the government there isn't. It's all just virtual and physical insanity. The only candidate that has the mental capacity to be a president. In fact, I think he actually has a lot of good policies. Robert F. Kennedy, a descendant of the Kennedy family, is getting suppressed by US media. They didn't allow him to participate in the debate, although I think he had the grounds to qualify, and the Republicans and Democrats alike say that voting for a third party is throwing away your vote. Originally, RFK was running with the Democrats, but once he realized that they wanted a puppet man with button eyes they can control and not an actual president, he decided to run as an independent candidate, aka a third party. And he's one of the most popular third party candidates in US history, although the polls say that he has around 8% of the votes. I think the reason why the media doesn't want people to vote for him or to even represent him fairly is because the Democratic and Republican Party have a two-party monopoly controlling most of the voting resources and media, basically making it impossible for a third-party candidate to win. But that's not all. RFK is also suspicious of the military-industrial complex, and he wants to make government spending completely transparent using AI technology. He is also anti-war and wants to cut the military budget in half. So basically, he's the current US government's worst nightmare. It's also sadly impossible for RFK to win because of the Electoral College vote system. He could have 30% of the votes in every district, but this would result in 0 districts won, therefore 0 voting points. The votes aren't counted by the total population. No, that would be too easy. Each district essentially runs their own elections, and whichever party gets the majority of the votes wins the district and gets all of the voting points from that district, even if they won by 1%. This district voting also allows for gerrymandering, which is basically drawing district lines in such a way that makes you win the districts even if you have fewer votes. I don't know why the US still uses that cursed system. Europe alone has so many better ones. So Robert F. Kennedy can't win simply because of the two-party monopoly and the insanely stupid voting system in the US. Great. Just what the military wanted. You see, they support the current ex-presidents because both of them are strangely in favor for more wars. Of course, the solution would be to try a European multiple-party system instead of a two-party one, or a direct democracy, but this isn't possible because I think the American people are currently not in control of their own government. The power lies within the hands of the corporations and the military. The military-industrial complex wants to make more money actually, so of course they'll fund and support both of the presidents who are in favor of continuing US proxy wars. Corporations have too much power too, in my opinion. They can do whatever they want, while the people have to watch how all of the homes are being bought up by mega companies, or how they have collected and sold all of their data without consent. Blatant corruption everywhere the eye can see. The MIC has gotten way too powerful in my opinion, because of things like the Pentagon's black budget, where they can spend billions or even trillions of US dollars in complete secrecy, and they have documents that are so secret, not even the presidents are allowed to view them. But if the presidents can't view them, who can? I think these mysterious people clearly have a lot more control over the US than what the public is led to believe, because as you know, unchecked power always results in the abuse of said power. Nobody voted for these super high-level military personnel, yet they know all of the US secrets and can operate completely in secret even if it directly involves US citizens. I don't trust them one bit, and so should you. But before this gets too conspiratorial, I have to say that all of the rumors going around of some secret society of super smart people controlling the US in secret is not entirely true, because they're not super smart, they're complete idiots. If there really was such a society, wouldn't they be way better at running the country? I mean, the US is at the brink of possible civil war and civil unrest, and their response to that was what exactly? Taking even more rights away and giving the people the illusion of choice between the two worst presidents in recent history? Even if there is a secret ruling class, damn they're terrible at their jobs. Alright, this is a lot of doom and gloom, but I believe there was something good that came from this debate, believe it or not. That being the blatant corruption being exposed to the American people. Now it's undeniable. They're all using you for their personal benefit. I hope that this debate was a wake-up call for all Americans to remember what they're all about. They're taking your freedoms away right as we speak. You can't even camp outside anymore. They have raised taxes to a ridiculous extent, and they're mismanaging the funds so badly that they're about to repeat the Weimar Republic. Your tax dollars are going to God knows where. What I can tell you is they're being wasted. You can't just get a near $40 trillion national debt without a severe mismanagement of funds. The only reasonable solution to this massive problem rhymes with evolution. The original American Revolution happened because the British dared to tax them at all with no representation. What happened to the land of the free? Are Americans willing to bring it back? I'm not saying you should go all out and recreate the French Revolution, although you definitely could. I just want y'all to step up to tyranny and recognize that conforming any further will harm you infinitely more than standing up for yourself. I know that a lot of people in the US are too burned out to do anything, but please, don't let your country become a dystopian novel because it might encourage other countries to do the same. And of course it's bad for you as well. I think there's never been a better time to start collectively hating the government, and we might make a difference if we actually unify ourselves as a collective to stop the tyranny we're witnessing. I don't want the homeless being bullied off the streets because of some new laws or have the government be replaced by Trump's yes men. If there was ever a time to rise up, it's now or never. I have said this before, but the people need to be a part of the power balance instead of being the servants of a broken system. It's like rock, paper, scissors. The government, military, and people should rule over each other accordingly instead of the government and military combining to oppress the people indefinitely. The good thing about this debate was that people are finally realizing just how bad the situation is, and awareness is the first step to healing. All generations are now united through a common enemy, the US government. The United States has sadly become the victim of deep systemic corruption, from the politicians and corporations making millions, no billions of dollars where the average citizens can barely afford to live. The presidents becoming entertainers instead of rulers. The state used to serve and protect people. Now they're cracking down on the homeless, and people fear the police. Everything is on its head now, but I don't think this will be for long. As I said before, I don't think a civil war is the right solution, because the majority of people in the US just want to live decent and comfortable lives, and not dream of affordable groceries or housing. Your fellow American is not the enemy. It's the crooks that are running this country into the ground. It's a select very few people who run things over there, and once they're out of the picture, if you know what I'm saying, wink wink, you can hold proper elections again and have affordable food and stuff. You know the phrase love thy neighbor? It's never been more important than now, because I don't fully know what's going to happen in early 2025, but I don't think it's very good. So if you have a good relationship with your neighbors, you can keep each other safe. It saddens me to say this, but I would prepare if I were a US citizen. You know, get canned food, water purification tablets or a water purification system, a first aid kit, and maybe a solar generator. I'm not saying this to fearmonger either, because I know that the hurricane season is on its way, and it's always good to have extra supplies lying around. And a flashlight and duct tape is always useful, you know? I want my viewers to stay safe, so here's some more useful tips for survival in times of uncertainty or crisis. Love your neighbor because you don't want them to hate you. Have some form of communication like a ham radio, in case the internet gets compromised. Have a big bag of beans or a bag of rice laying around. They're cheap and filling. Have some coffee filters or just filters in general that can purify water. Have a good backpack with a first aid kit. The tourniquet is particularly important. Because it's the US and y'all love guns, not having a gun is a fat disadvantage. From what I've seen, I would recommend a Glock 9mm for beginners. 9mm is one of the most common cartridges. Tough times are ahead of us, but remember, tough times never last. Only tough people. And after this whole economic turmoil and political madness is over, we might enter an era of prosperity. Just stay low and stay tuned. We'll see what happens next. I promise I've got more uplifting videos planned. This was just all very sudden. And happy 4th of July to my American viewers. All of these freedom restricting rules are super ironic now. Really? All of this BS right before the 4th of July? Anyways, thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe, watch more of my videos, and bye bye.